start recording. Okay. So, good evening. My name is Dr. Larry Force, and I'm a professor of psychology at Mount St. Mary College and a director of our Center on Aging and Disability Policy with my dear friend, Dr. Kahana. This is somewhat different tonight because we've had to improvise because of the fact that about 5:30 tonight, we received a call regarding my mother-in-law who lives on Long Island, and we're concerned that she may have had a stroke. So obviously, we're on our way down there, and I'm connecting via iPhone. On the phone is Elaine Sproat. Elaine is the project director. Elaine and I have known each other for 30 plus years. This is the second cycle of this proactive caring school exchange, but it's somewhat different now. It's called Proactive Caring Home and School Exchange, and it's with a focus on transitions. So Elaine is here tonight joining us, as well as Lisa Nathan. And typically the way that it goes is that Lisa, who is a parent of a child with special needs and a tremendous advocate and a meditator, comes to the table in dialogue with Peggy Pisano. And Peggy Pisano is a school psychologist and, again, a tremendous advocate. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to blend their voices into one. We have been so successful with this, so much so that DDPC, New York State Developmental Disability Planning Council, has renewed our grant for another year, for this year coming up. And the focus will be a collaboration with Parent Network of Western New York. And what's our unique fingerprint? Our unique fingerprint is the fact that we're focusing on a mindfulness approach. Okay, the idea is we're not under any illusion that we're talking about a yoga mat with people sitting on it for 45 minutes in a position of being a yoga master. What this really is, it's a focus on like a micro meditation. It's a focus on a pause and a thought. Caregiving by itself can be extremely stressful. We truly believe that we have tools and resources that can be a benefit to the individual, to the family member, and to agency staff. So again, we welcome you. We will meet every other week. Now that you have your invite link, you don't need to register anymore. You can join us 2 weeks from now, and Elaine will talk about that later. On the off weeks, Parent Network, the Network of Western New York is doing a focus on mindfulness stress reduction with a support group, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But at this point, what I'd like to do is I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to turn it over to Lisa. And Lisa, maybe you could just talk a little bit about the theme of tonight, and then both you and Elaine have the material that Peggy has created, and then maybe if you could introduce that at all as well. The real benefit and beauty, I just want to say this one thing, the real benefit and beauty of Lisa's presentation is that it's based upon a lived experience. And one of the things that you actually even demonstrate to us is how does this really look? This idea of stopping for a moment and being able to care for yourself, to pay attention to yourself as you're dealing with this idea of stress, especially as it's related to transitions. So Lisa, please, I'd like you to, at this point, take the ownership of the video cast.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. And Larry, just for sending out our love and, good wishes for you guys, and, literally you're in a process of transition right now because you don't even know what's going to happen when you get down to the island. So we're holding you in our thoughts. Literally what I'd like to do from my perspective is to introduce the idea of transitioning our bodies from one state to another, transitioning our minds from a scattered stress state to a more calm state. And I'd like to introduce that in the framework of mindfulness and to give you some ways that you can do that. So that's what I'm going to present tonight. Elaine, I know, I have Peggy's notes. You have Peggy's notes. So we can just start. Should we start just by doing, what Peggy wrote up, and then we'll go from there? Hey, Elaine. All right. I think either Elaine is frozen or, all right. So anyway, guys, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of introduction to what Peggy wrote. It's not coming from her voice, it's coming from me. So I pardon if it seems like I'm reading, but I'll do the best I can just to bring up some of the themes. So literally, like, what is a transition? Well, it's obviously changing from one state or condition to another state. And, the one thing that we can be sure of is change is a constant in life, because change constantly happens, whether, inside our bodies on a cellular level to outside every day. And God knows we're all, in this period of transition during this global pandemic. And different people have different thresholds to how they handle transitions and the stress they feel from them. And very often people will try to avoid transitions. They'll try to avoid change, but it could be both positive and negative. Have you ever had the experience where you avoided change, but once it happened, like, you grew accustomed to it and it was like, okay. And you can even grow from it, even from difficult change. There's always a possibility of growing and evolving. And as experienced tonight, sometimes we can plan for transitions, and sometimes, well, they're just going to show up on our front door and we just got to deal with them. So there's, during the stages of transition, and there's 5 stages. There's this disengagement where we have to separate from what we know, separate from what's familiar. We have to dismantle it. We have to let go of what's no longer needed. And at some point, we can talk about this from a mindfulness perspective, because that can be really, really challenging. We have disenchantment, which is, just sometimes discovering that things no longer make sense. Even if we see this from like the pandemic point of view, it kind of puts it in a good frame of reference. Disidentification, you have to evaluate, like, what's our new normal? Like, who am I now that I've changed, now that things have shifted? And disorientation, which is the sense of losing touch with one's reality. And boy, could we ever understand that in this global world we're in right now. So, and I'd like to just kind of bring out that other key point about transitioning to the new normal, because anybody who has a child with special needs, anybody who's been a caregiver understands this idea of the new normal. Because sometimes and it can even go like day by day or even minute by minute. You just like never know what's going to happen. And we get this. We can feel that we're in a psychological no man's land during this transition process. And, everybody processes transition and change in their own way, in their own time. And that's something also we can explore from a meditative and mindfulness perspective, because you have to give honor to that. And you can have a partner who deals with these things much differently than you, but you have to be very, very, aware and respectful of each other's ability to deal with that. And I've even seen it with, couples who have diagnosed a child with special needs, and they can deal with it very, very differently. So we can touch on that. And, obviously there's many, many emotions that can come up during transition, their anxiety, fear, depression, sometimes even anger. And, and you can have transitions that are planned, think of, your child switching from one program to another, you're planning this, you're working at it, and things that are you'd rather not have happened. The teacher goes on maternity leave, you find out like the program is no longer available for your child. there are many things that can happen. And, the ability to cope with transition is called resilience, I guess, is one way of looking at it. And, one factor, which is a really important factor in mindfulness, is you can only control, what you have control over. And you can only control your own reaction. You don't have control over everything. God knows, we understand that. But all we do have control over is our reaction to it, is our reaction to change. And that's something with 100% that mindfulness and meditation can really, really help with. So using that as my segue, let's look at transition in the framework of mindfulness. So how can meditation and mindfulness help with transition and change? And I'm using those two words because there is a difference. We can talk about that later. There is a difference between mindfulness and meditation, but we'll get there later. Well, for one thing, times of transition usually require decision making, and it could be very, very difficult to make a decision, let alone a good decision, when you're under stress, when your body is under stress. And, sometimes we don't even realize it. Like, stresses don't have to be big. They could be the small things that add up. You woke up late. Your internet is fritzing and your kid can't connect to Zoom school. Like, that's like a word now, You ran out of dog food. There's traffic on the way to work. What's for dinner? Yet again, you can't find your keys. And these are only the little things. So what happens when, with the big stressors? And this is where the practice and the exploration of meditation and mindfulness can help. Like, we can literally change our bodies and brains from a state of stress, the fight or flight response, to one of rest and digest, or the relaxation response, just by using our breath. And anybody can do this, because if you're breathing, you can do this. So tonight I'd like to practice two types of transition during a guided meditation, which I'll give. One will be that which I just spoke of, transitioning from a stress state. And we can be in a stress state like all the time, and like not even realize it, because it feels like the normal, to one of relaxation. And the other transition I'd like to practice, and we'll do this more as we go on with the program, is to introduce the idea of getting out of the cluttered mind, getting out of, that movie screen that we have going with everything we have going on, the hamster wheel of incessant thinking, and try to bring a little bit of like calmness and learn the process of doing that. So those are the two transitions I'd like to explore in tonight's meditation. So we're going to start. Okay, and we're going to start by sitting comfortably. And we're going to put our feet flat on the floor if you can. We're going to sit with our spine upright. It doesn't have to be rigid, but just be nice and tall. Feel like almost like a string is like pulling your head nice and straight up. We're going to relax our face. Going to relax our jaw. Relax our shoulders. Now, we're not trying to force anything special to happen. Just relax. Be at ease. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. Now, where we are right now, just feel the natural state of your body. Notice the natural state of your breath. Not judging your breath, it's fast or slow or long or short, just allowing it to be. And feel your breath for a moment. Just feel it rising and falling. Now we're going to start our transition, counting our breath to elicit that relaxation response. And we're going to do this by counting by inhaling through our nose. And then we exhale. We're going to exhale like we're blowing out a candle. And we're going to inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 6. And I'll hold the count. We'll do that for a few rounds. Okay, let's start. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Now, when you exhale, I want you to feel like you're just draining, like this, everything is kind of draining from you and just going straight out through your feet, right into the floor, the stress, the day, the troubles, because we're here right now together and all is good. Let's do that again. And we're going to exhale a little bit longer to a count of 7. Again, I'll hold the count for us. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. More time. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Just sit for a moment and see if you can feel a shift, a change. Whether you can feel that you've become a little less stressed. You can feel a change in your body. Now let the breath go back to normal. Don't try to control it at all. Breathing in and out through your nose. Now you've hit the reset button and turned on your body's rest and relaxation response. Now I want you to bring your attention to the breath. All of your attention to the breath. The breath coming in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. See if you can feel the air as it glides over your upper lip. Bring all your attention there. Just allowing the breath to be as it is. Let's do that for a few seconds. Good. Now, as most of us, this happens, if there's thought, just let there be thought. Acknowledge it and let it drift away. Simply notice it and allow it to fade. And just come back to the breath. Keep all your attention on the breath. The breath coming in through your nostrils. The breath going out through your nostrils. Let's do that again. I'm going to hold this for about 30 seconds. I'll keep the count. All right, good. Now let's let our sensations settle. Let go of the concentration. And if your mind wandered, well, welcome to the human race. It's perfectly normal for our minds to wander. And meditation, it's a process, it's a practice. It's like going to the gym, learning, lifting weights and getting your body in shape. This is getting your brain in a calmer mode. It's giving you, eventually it will give the ability, and what Larry introduced in his introduction is this slightest ability to pause. Because very often, this, we react. Somebody does something, your kids say something, and it's boom, you react. And when you eventually begin, build up your practice of meditation, of becoming calmer, it gives you this itty bitty little gap, and you can see it, and you can look, and you can say, okay, I'm choosing to respond to the situation rather than reacting. And again, if you can breathe, you can meditate. So that's our presentation.
And Lisa, could I ask you, Lisa,
yes.
Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think there would be a real value if you could share with people, because some of the people that are joining us tonight we've not met yet, and they don't know your story. And I think there would be a real value if you could just talk about the defining moment when you're out walking the dog and what life looked like, and you making the decision, I don't want to do it like this anymore. And maybe you could just give like a quick overview of that.
Sure. Larry and a few people here know my story. So as introduced, I have 3 children, one who has special needs, Gabriel. I don't know if you can hear him laughing in the background, but he was laughing in the background. My apologies. He's 20 years old. And so obviously I'm a caregiver for my 3 children. They're older. They're starting to do that on their own, taking care of themselves. But I was also a caregiver for years for my mother and my husband. And my husband had early onset Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia. And, when I was caring for him and under extraordinary stress, this is before I started meditating and all that. And I'd be outside, going out. I realized that walking my dog in the woods was like the one place I could be at peace. And it was just like, I realized like I am just coming to my complete, I am done. I am just completely done. I had nothing left, and it was realizing it's just like, I can't anymore. I'm literally, there's nothing left for me to give anybody else. And when you're there, and I know so many of you can, relate to this, it's like, how do you come back? What do you do? And for me, it was like, little things. I would practice a little bit of yoga and qigong, which is a form of kind of like moving meditation with my husband. As much as he could do, I would do it. And then eventually, learning how to meditate, and just like little bits. It just takes these like tiny little bits. It's just showing up. And I say this over and over again. It's just, you just need to show up. You just need to come wherever it is, on your chair, sitting in the bathroom, sitting in your car, sitting on your front steps, and just saying, I'm just going to take a breath. I'm just going to take a pause, and I'm going to do this for myself. Because if I don't, I don't want to see myself become a victim of what the damage of stress can do to my body. So that's a little bit of my story. And I know all of you have your own stories. Everybody has a story. So that's just a little bit of mine.
But I think that the important point of that story is the fact that you weren't an experienced meditator. You started by just stopping in the moment, a pause, a thought, and then it became a practice.
Right.
And we're under no illusion that people are going to be on a yoga mat for 45 minutes in a lotus position. If that's happening, fine. Right. But it's a question of staying in the moment. I heard this statement one time that resonates with me from a trainer that I went to. I went to this conference up in Cape Cod about the use of mindfulness as a therapeutic intervention. And he said, clients that you work with that only focus on the past, it's all about depression. And clients that you work with only focus on the future, it's all about anxiety. And your role is to be able to try to help people stay in the moment. And that's the purpose of this.
Yes. And you know, the way I was like picturing this, like if you could take like everything going on in your head, you know, everything from like your upbringing to your childhood, you know, traumas to everything going on in your life, and you fused it into a glass plate. You know, that's what we live with. And what meditation allows you to do is to start separating those plates, start unfusing them, so you can see, you can be a witness and an observer of the hamster wheel of thoughts that we go through, bouncing back between the past and the future, the past and the future. That when I finally realized what I was doing, I was like, holy cow. Like, I can't believe how much I spend between the past and the future instead of being in the present moment, because the present moment here and now is where we can create change. That's where we can make things happen. And to learn how to do that, you have to be able to kind of become that impartial observer of what's going on and attaching yourself to your breath, putting that attention to the breath, that stable attention on your breath, even as simple as it sounds, is what can create that.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, being a caregiver is stressful under the best of circumstances, but especially now and still in the midst of this pandemic, it multiplies those stresses several times over, so that it makes things even harder, and there's more need for that kind of centeredness that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, you know, look, what's our hope? Our hope is that you join us every 2 weeks. Our hope is that we make this an exchange. Our hope is that you walk away with some tools and resources that can be of benefit to you. We've had Lisa and Peggy were our superstars during the beginning of the pandemic. We applied for this grant. When this grant became available, I reached out to Elaine. Elaine and I have known each other for 30 plus years. I asked her to join, be the architect of the content of the grant. And she did a wonderful job, and we received it for 3 years. And then as we're running through the state doing train the trainer things, COVID comes in. And as a result of that, we had to completely pivot. And pivot we did. And Lisa and Peggy on a weekly basis came to this Zoom platform. We had a discussion. It was really about, we were only going to go last April because that's when schools were closed. And then they were closed to June. And then they were closed at the beginning of September. And we are under no illusion that people that are caregivers to family members, that they have the luxury at times. We were doing 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. We were under no illusion that people were showing up at 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning with a cup of coffee just to sit back. That's why we did the format that we did and sent it out. And it was so well received that now we're moving forward. We're moving forward beyond the school issue into this area of transitions. And some of you, some people, Sue Barlow, who is the executive director of the Parent Network of Western New York, she talks about 5 stages of transition. My friend Jeffrey, my colleague and dear friend, who is involved with this project, has a son with autism who's 12 years old. Jeffrey's already looking at the landscape of what happens after the IEP process runs out. So and planning for it. So there's transitions all the way through life. So we'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We're sorry about the way that we had to configure this, but it's the nature of caregiving. As I indicated to those of you that joined late, 5:30 tonight, we received a call regarding my mother-in-law, and we're on our way down to Long Island to be present for her because we're concerned that something has happened. and neighbors are there, and, we'll see where this goes. So all good thoughts and all good prayers. But Lisa and Elaine, thank you so much. For those of you who joined us, please know that we will be getting together in 2 weeks, and it'll be an open exchange. And if you have, Elaine, is there anything summary regarding the process?
I will send out emails again to everybody, just reminding them about the topics and inviting participation. And I know, Stacy, you're on board here too, that you've, Stacy Orzel, who's on tonight, is one of the members of our advisory council and has been a tremendous asset in terms of the conversations we've had, because I'm on here really as the grant administrator, but I'm not a parent myself. I mean, I'm not a caregiver myself at the moment, and I'm not a professional like Larry is either. And I'm not when I say professional, I'm not a social worker or a psychologist. So I really rely on Lisa and Peggy and Larry and our other friends like Stacy to, Stacy.
I want to thank Lisa, and there are some friends on the meeting tonight that are maybe new to this group, and I would like to be able to say that a year ago when we were in that classroom on the Mount St. Mary campus, the group initiated mindfulness meditation that Lisa and another gal led the group with. And I am a fast-paced, redheaded New Yorker and really didn't think that I could do meditation. And I thought a misnomer that one has to clear your mind and you have to come to the moment. And I've learned how to do that. And I'm proud of myself. I've stuck with it. But in that moment on that day, Lisa said, it's okay. You don't have to clear your mind. And over time, I've learned, thank you, Lisa, how to focus on that breath and the breathing and lowering the stress factor and getting in touch with the parasympathetic nervous system to be able to affect the calming of the stress factor and come to a more de-stressful place. So I just want to encourage everyone that's joining us. If you are a fast-paced person, you're in the moment, you're multitasking, you have that ability to be able to layer your life, because most of us have to. And in times of pandemic, we're reinventing ourselves. So whatever we were doing, we're thinking of different ways to do it now. We're like kind of a mindful, a spin, right? In some ways where, and that speaks to transition. To take it back to tonight's topic, there's a lot of reinventing and a lot of novel thinking and flexibility, which is not always easy in the moment. So I am grateful to this group for the things that you've brought. If those of you that joined us tonight are not familiar with our website, thumbs up to Dr. Force, Dr. Kahana, and Elaine. You've done an amazing job creating the digital proactive caring workbook, where there's topics and a book and lots of resources with great suggestions and strategies presented within the pages of that website. Originally, we were going to do this project in the community, and boy, we created a lifetime of opportunity that's now pressed on a website for people to be able to reference and resource. So I'm really proud of that. You guys did an amazing job. So it's wonderful that we got refunded to go forward. And I'm excited for the continued learning. Thank you for all your contributions, everyone.
Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Stacy.
I'd like to ask everybody who's here if, certainly the next time around, if at all possible, if you could join us with video, because it's really nice. Maria, your photograph popped on there for a moment, and it was so nice to see the face behind the name. And also, Brendan, I don't know who you are because I don't have a registration for Brendan. So if you would enough to let us know, so we make sure that we have your email address and can let you know about future meetings, that would be great.
I'll give it up, Elaine. That's Lisa Correo.
Oh, it is? Okay.
We're good.
Okay, that makes sense
Okay.
at first.
Yeah, sorry.
There she is. There's our girl.
So this is the same Zoom account that Brendan uses for school, so it has his name on it. So whenever I Zoom, I'm Brendan. Sorry.
Good to know that.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry I joined a little late. You know, it was a bunch of things going on with the kids.
And hi, Sabrina, and hi, Pamela. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, ladies. Sorry
I'm
about
Kat.
that. I feel the same way when you do something and everybody's got their camera off, and we were over here having dinner and trying to get everybody settled. And then I heard you say that. I was like, oh, I'm doing it. So I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just
My
I'm glad all of
apologies.
you were able to join us at all, but it's especially nice to actually see
Yeah, definitely.
people. And I think that the interaction can be better when you see who you're talking to.
It's
Agreed.
great
Yes.
seeing everybody now. Hi.
I'm
Now,
not that
Stacy,
tech
photo.
savvy.
I
I'm
just wanna say
Kathy
that
Toll.
Stacy-
I'm a director of a special ed preschool program downstate in New York City. And I thank you so much for inviting me to the meeting. And if I become a little more tech savvy, I will have the live camera running. But thank you for the mindfulness. It's very important as a director for a special ed preschool program to bring this back to my staff. We always talk about taking a moment for yourself, being mindful for yourself, because you can only be a better provider of service if you are ready to provide the service. And on a personal level, I appreciate everything that transpired tonight. And I look forward to the next meetings, and I will share it with my team, if that's okay with everybody,
Sure.
that they
Please,
should join.
please.
And
And-
we're
I just-
in Brooklyn.
Yay,
I
Brooklyn.
just wanna say- yeah, Brooklyn. I just want to say this. Stacy mentioned about our digital resource center, AKA our website. If everybody can, take down this website, it's proactivecaring.org. And you will be so impressed, as we are, with the resources that are available there, free downloadable. There's videos there, there's training videos there, there's manuals there, there's a mindfulness, 8-module manual. You will absolutely love it. And as far as sharing it with your staff, for sure, feel comfortable to share this with your staff, with your PTA, with your IEP process, your school district, because we're very proud of what we have, and the way to really further enhance this is to be able to continue to get the word out. We know
Most
now that,
definitely.
and I just want to say one thing, we know now, and Elaine does a wonderful job with the newsletter, monthly newsletter, and if there's something you want to see in that, let us know and we'll get that in there. But we know for a fact that the things that we send out are going out to over 4,000 individuals, families, and agencies, not only locally, statewide, and nationally. We're very proud of this. And the fact is, here's the takeaway. You don't have to do this alone. I mean, caregiving can be a very isolating, stressful time, but you don't have to do this alone. And that's not just words. I mean, I'm not just talking from a textbook. I'm living the moment. So the fact
Obviously,
is
yes.
that to know that there's other people out there is wonderful. All right, so look, we're going to stop here. We'll gather again in 2 weeks. You'll hear from Elaine. And Lisa and Elaine, thank you. Stacy, as always. Lisa, Curiel, thank you so much. And I really look forward to seeing everyone in 2 weeks. So
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for
Larry,
Thank
coming.
you, everyone.
good luck with your
Thank you.
mom.
Thank you.
We're
Be
sending
safe
you
and good luck.
prayers and
All right.
love, you guys. Good luck with your
All right.
mom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.